Hi, this is Lori Levin again, and I'm speaking about my recent attendance in March of 2024 at the 68th Commission on the Status of Women at the United Nations in New York City and the way too high cost of being female in the world and the United States. In the first video, I discussed the fact that US women have only one constitutional right, and that's the right to vote. Most Americans believe that women and men have the same legal protections, which is really grossly inaccurate. So constitutional inequality is one of the high costs of being female in the United States. Please check out video 1, Constitutionally Unequal in America, if you haven't seen it. In the second video, I'll share some of the important points raised about the economic and workplace inequality that women must endure every day. The third video recaps some of the key points shared on the epidemic rates of gender-based violence and the impact it has on all of us. And in the fourth and final video, I'll be focusing on two events I attended regarding life for women and girls in Afghanistan since the 2021 Taliban takeover. Girls and women have been erased from the public sphere almost entirely. So let's get into economic inequality, which begins at home in this second video. It was many years ago that Gloria Steinem said this, and it just is such an important quote. Women are not going to be equal outside the home until men are equal in it, right? We need equality in the home to have equality outside the home. These are some of the things that speakers said, and then I'll talk specifically to a couple of countries. In every session, there were always leaders and NGOs from various countries that spoke about what they were putting in place, what they were experiencing, and what they were putting in place. Unpaid services are unfair to women. Unpaid jobs need to be redistributed for sustainable development and gender equality. This is felt across the board, country by country. We're saying these statements, and we must dismantle the conventional view that we have about whose primary responsibility it is to care for, whether that be children, the home, the parents, the elderly. In Sweden, the engagement of men and boys in unpaid and domestic work is really a high priority. Everyone should have the right to work and support themselves, and balance work life is a philosophy in Sweden. Sweden has long-standing policies to get equal numbers of women and men in the workforce. 50 years of paid parental leave for both parents, really just extraordinary. I mean, it's such common sense that you would have this. What's more important than supporting our children and our young families, right? As they're going to work, oftentimes many hours outside the home, they need that care for those young children in order to create future generations that can take on, all that there is to take on, certainly as you're an adult moving out into the workforce. You'll see many men pushing what's called prams in Sweden, strollers, in parks and restaurants. One thing I noticed here my first couple months in Spain were all the men that were out and about with other men and their children at the beach, at the park, walking down the streets with their prams. And parents' leave has benefited women significantly. They have felt this in countries throughout Europe. In Spain, the speaker said that we need to value care more, and we do, universally. It holds men back from developing their care and parenting skills. And the gap is still huge in Spain. They've got lots of things going on, and they're very, very positive here. However, the gap is still quite large. All right, in terms of pay, I talked about this in the first video, constitutional inequality. And it's important, obviously, to bring it up here in this video about economic inequality. Women make substantially less than men do, 84 cents on the dollar for the same work. Black women, much less, 69 cents. Hispanic women, less, 57 cents. And Native American women, even less, more, even less than that, 55 cents. Makes it very, very difficult when you have to work through April of the next year to equal what your male counterpart earns through December of the preceding year. And where women dominate those professions, women are still being paid less, and women continue to be penalized for having children and being caregivers in terms of promotions, getting jobs in the first place, responsibilities, opportunities within the workforce. These are things that, again, women are finding that they're missing the boat on simply because they're considered the main caregiver. And then there's this component we must consider, and that's economic gender-based violence. Economic freedom is tied to gender-based violence. Women's earnings drop by 25% when they endure male violence. Women's economic reliance on abusive partners or family finances can be used as a tool. And women are then left with, I've got to stay in order to be able to provide care, provide a home and food for my children. Gender-based violence is estimated to cost more than 5% of global GDP. That's extraordinary. That is a huge amount of money, billions and billions of dollars. In Tanzania, the speaker said that women earn 29 to 43% less money if they endure violence, and gender-based violence has increased tenfold in Tanzania. Kenya, women leave work earlier than men for their safety. And in Sweden, the abuser takes out loans in the woman's name, ruins her credit, runs up debt, again, to control her, keep her at home. And gender-based violence doesn't stop when women go to work. And I want to add the impact closing the gender pay gap will have, not something that I heard at the UN, but data that is important when talking about the gender pay gap. We would cut the high poverty rate for working single mothers by nearly half. And the number of children with working mothers outside the home living in poverty would also be cut in half, dropping from almost 6 million to 3 million. The United States economy would produce additional income of over $500 billion if women received equal pay. This represents almost 3% of gross domestic product. Women have been graduating from college at higher rates than men for decades, but degrees don't translate to dollars. And the pay gap exists at higher education levels as well. Over the course of a career, the lost income can add up to over $1 million. So it's not about a single paycheck. And I love this quote, and I felt heartened. It's a depressing topic. It's one I lived through myself throughout my corporate years. And saw it for women, in all levels of leadership, just coming into the workforce, and at the top end where you're paid less and given fewer opportunities. And you might have the higher degree and be more qualified. I saw this time and time again. I felt heartened and lifted up, however, by this quote from the founder of the FIERA organization, Sheva Carr, and the organization that supported me to attend as a delegate. Sheva said, as we evolve, so will our culture. That picked up my spirits because it's just a matter of evolving. And we can do that. We got this. We can do it. More and more people are understanding that as we come from our heart's intelligence and collaboration of those heart qualities, love, kindness, care, compassion, those feelings of domination, those desires to win at somebody else's expense, those go by the wayside. So that's the work we want to do. We want to bring into the work that we're doing in terms of leveling the playing field and ending the gender gap once and for all. And here again is my contact information. I want to stay in touch with you. This is my email and my new website called Rise. My book, Call Me a Woman on Our Way to Equality and Peace. It includes the 7 habits of equality and the habits of inequality that most of us are probably living. And once we become aware, again, heightened awareness leads to elevated consciousness. That's where transformation takes place. Thank you so much for being here. So appreciate your time. Check out the next video. These are quick, but again, just to give you some information, inspire, help motivate, and allow you to share some of these facts. And hopefully the hope and inspiration too, that we can close this gap a lot quicker than it is predicted. So video 3, all about gender-based violence. Thanks so much for your time.